forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos. This is the LeMoyne star. It's 12-inch finished. Here is the diagram. We only have 3 fabrics, the background, and 2 different star point fabrics. This is an 8-point star. We're going to cut these star points from strips, 3-inch cut strips, and then I'll show you how to sew these together and try to avoid a little lump in the middle. Then we'll stitch Y seams to add the corners and the side units. And a Y seam is called a Y seam because if you look here, the seam here, here, and here make the letter Y. So that's why they're called Y seams. They're really very easy to do. They just take a little bit of prep work so you can get it right. Here are the blocks set block to block. Now the essential tool that I recommend that you have for this is the Deluxe Corner Clipper from Marty Michelle. And if you've been watching my videos, you know I've used this a lot. Here's what it looks like. Most of the time we've been using these to clip the corners at these various angles. Here's a 45 degree, a 90, and different angles. But today we're going to use the corner clipper part of it, and we're also going to use these little holes that are drilled that show the seam lines, where the seam lines meet in these points. That to me is the key to getting this block right. We only have 3 patches. Patch A is a 3.5-inch finished square. We cut 4-inch squares. We'll need 4 patches of the background fabric. And patch B is a 5-inch finished quarter square triangle. We cut 6 1/4-inch square, and then we cut it in half on the diagonal twice to get 4 patches. And 4 patches of the background are what we need for this block. Here are the AccuQuilt dies you can use to cut this patch. I did not find an AccuQuilt die that cuts a 3.5-inch finished square. Patch C is a parallelogram, and we'll cut a 3-inch wide strip of fabric, so 3 inches times the width of fabric. Then I'm going to show you how to cut these parallelograms from that strip. I don't have a lot of step-by-step instructions, just the first few steps, and then you'll have to watch the video to see the demo of how to do the Y seams, because it's just no way to photograph it, but once you see it done, it would make a lot more sense. Here are the fabrics I've chosen. This is patch A, the background, and this is patch B, the background, and these are the 2 different fabrics for the star points. So let's first look at patch A. For the squares, we need to mark 1 corner. So let me zoom in here. There's what it looks like. To do this, this is a 90-degree angle here. So we find the 90-degree angle on our Marty Michelle ruler and match up the edges of the fabric with these 2 edges. Then mark a dot. I just use, if the fabric is not too light, I'll just use my little micron pencil or pen, because I just literally just dab it on there and you get this marking. That's all you really need. And while you're here at your 90 degree, we're going to trim the corner. We just trim it like this. Now all of these trimmings we're going to do, this may seem totally insignificant, but it really does help, and you'll see it once we start our piecing. So do this 1 corner for each of the 4 squares. Next we have our triangles, our quarter square triangles. You cut them like this, and we're going to trim the corners like this with our corner trimmer, and we're also going to mark this point that comes down here. These are 45-degree angles on these edges, and this is your 90-degree angle. So your 90-degree angle is what you're going to mark and trim, just like we did with the squares. Here's our 90-degree angle, and we'll just take this, mark it, And then while I'm here, I'm going to trim it. Okay, so we do that for the 90-degree angle. The 45-degree angles, and you can have this right side up or wrong side up, whichever way you like. You place the 45-degree angle like this and match these sides, and we're going to trim these off right here. And so that's what that corner looks like. And we'll do that for this other corner. These corners we don't have to mark the point, because these that we clipped off are going to be our guide. And you'll do that for all 4 of your B patches. So those are ready. Now I'm going to show you how to cut these star points. Since we have 2 different fabrics for our star points, we need 2 strips that are 3.5 inches times 21 inches, and you need 21 inches of usable fabric. So you can't count the selvage in that 21 inches. We'll take these and put them wrong sides together, like this. And line them up. We're going to cut pairs, and we'll cut 4 pairs. You take your ruler with your 45-degree angle, and we'll line up the 45-degree angle on the ruler with the bottom edge or the top edge, however you're going to measure this. And then this point of the ruler where the edge meets the bottom of the fabric. So move this over as close as possible to this side, and then cut this off here. So now we have our 45-degree angle. We're going to cut the rest of them so they look like this. There's 1, 2, 3, and then we'll put a 4th one after that. So to do that, we need to cut 3.5 inches, and this is the 45-degree line we used. So here is the one mark on the ruler, and we need the 3.5 inch mark, and it's right here. So we flip this like this. Now here's my 45-degree, it's straight, and we look for 3.5 inches. So that's 1, 2, 3.5 inches is this line, and this 3.5 inch line we're going to place on the line we just cut. So we have the 3.5 inch line along the line we just cut here. And if you want to check that it's positioned correctly, you can look for your 45-degree line here and line it up with the bottom of the fabric. So let's check it again. There's my 45-degree line. Here is my 3.5 inch line, and then you cut. And let's do it again. 3.5 inch line goes on the line we just cut, and let's line up our 45-degree line down here, 3.5 inches, and cut. And you'll continue that all the way down till you have 4 sets, and you'll have them that look like this with your upside down. This is how they will look. 4 sets like this. After they're cut, we're going to trim the corners, these 2 outside points, and mark these 2 inside angles. We take our Marty Michelle, and this angle here is 135 degrees. And here it is on the ruler. Line up the sides and mark your point. There it is. Flip this around, mark this other point. So we have these 2 angles or points marked on the inside, and now we'll take the 45-degree angle and trim off these other points, the longer points. There's one, and there's two. For this block, it's all about the prep work. It's kind of like a painter. If you've ever watched a professional painter, they'll come in, it takes them 3 days to smooth the walls, patch holes, do whatever they need to make the surface paintable. And then they come in and paint it in 1 day. So the prep work takes a long time, but it's worth it. So you'll do that. Mark both of these corners here, the 135-degree angles, and trim the 45-degree angles on all 8 of your C patches. If you don't have a Marty Michelle trimmer and you want to mark your angles, flip these over, find a ruler with the 1/4 inch marking on it, and place the 1/4 inch marking just at the bottom of this fabric. And take your pen, I'm going to use a dark pen so you can see, and somewhere around this corner just draw a little line, and then go over here and do the same thing to this side and draw a little line here, and make sure the lines intersect. So where those lines intersect, that's where you have your point. Let's do it again over here. Draw a line there, and then draw a line here. That intersection is what you need. Now we'll start stitching our star points. We'll stitch these together in this formation. This will be where we stitch our triangle units. These are the side units, really. So to do this, we're going to stitch these together, and we're going to stitch 4 of them. We'll stitch them like this. And then here is where we will put our triangle. Okay? So flip this over and match all 4 sides as much as you can. These markings should match on both sides. And the trimming you did on around these points should match as well. This is the line we're going to stitch. We'll start at our point, but we're not going to start exactly at the point. I want to, if you can visualize this, leave that point open, because this is where we're going to have these 2 fabrics, and then later on when we have this point here that we sew in, we'll have it there too. So in order to reduce some of that bulk, I start right at the very bottom of this marking. I start at the bottom of the marking, and this is 1/4 inch here, and I stitch a scant 1/4 inch. I take a few stitches forward, about 3 stitches, and take a couple of stitches backwards, and then stitch all the way down to this end. Do that to all 4 pairs. And let me show you a close-up of one that I did. Here is where I started, just below the marking. I took a couple of stitches forward and a couple of stitches backward, and then stitched this way all the way down. And I stitched a scant 1/4 inch. Okay, and we're not going to press these yet. So this is what it looks like. And do 4 of these. Next we'll take the triangle, and this is how we want to piece it. I want to stitch the right hand side first. It doesn't matter which side you stitch first. I'll stitch this one first, and I want to lay this flat. I want to get this piece out of the way. So here it is. Pick it up and fold it like this. So I've got these edges folded together here. I'll show you that. This folded down here. And then put a pin there. Put a pin to fold it out of the way. And remember, this is the line of stitching we're going to do. Then fold this over, and you'll want to match this edge here that you've trimmed. So the 2 trimmings should match over here, and match the top edge. And then the point you marked here, I'm going to put a pin right here at that marking. And you should see the marking underneath here. It's open. I don't know if you can see it there. This is the most I can zoom in, but I'll put my pen right there at that marking. And remember, the pen needs to go perpendicular. And it doesn't matter just right now because we're going to take this out before we stitch. The pen is in the way right now. Now that the pen is marked, you know that's good there. So line up your edges here and here. Then I take another pen and just pin this in place because I want this pen open. So when I go to my sewing machine, I'll take this pen out and start stitching just below this mark. Take 3 stitches forward and 2 stitches back, and then stitch all the way down and off. And here's the stitching. You see I didn't stitch right into that mark, and I did 3 stitches forward and 2 back, and stitched all the way off of this edge. Now, if we pick this up and we take the pin out, pick this up. Now we have our 2 pieces like this, see, and match these edges. It's going to fold. We match these edges here, and you see this is kind of folded out of the way, and that's a good thing. And I don't even pin here. I just match the edges up here and along this edge, and you start here. You'll stitch all the way just up to the point and then take a back stitch, a couple of stitches in the back, and then you're finished. Now here's what we just stitched. You see I didn't come right into the point. I left it open a little bit, scant 1/4 inch. Now let's turn this, and if you open this up like this and like this, you have your piece. We haven't pressed this yet. And what I have found, you can experiment if you want. I have found that if I press this seam open, these seams want to be pressed out like this. You can try pressing everything open, but I had a real problem with it. So I pressed this seam open first, and then I pressed these seams out toward the dark fabric. So let's check our sewing, and you see because we trimmed it, we have a little bitty angle here, just a slight angle, and that's fine. And we have the same little angle over here. That will all be taken up in the seam allowance, and you'll have a perfect point when you sew the others together. Now finish all 4 of these. Now we have our 4 triangle or side units done. Now we're going to sew these together in pairs. We'll sew this pair and then an identical pair like this. And these you'll sew the same way you did at the very beginning. We'll start, just line everything up and start at just below your point and stitch all the way down to the other side. Now here you'll want to make sure that you stack these seams. What I mean by that is, if you see when I pull this back, it looks like a little 4 patch here where these intersections meet. So you want to make sure that those intersections stay stacked like that as you make your stitch. You're going to start here, stitch all the way down through here, and do that to both sets. Now we're not going to press this yet. We'll put the squares in first. Let's find our square, and the square will go in like this. We'll do this the exact same way as we did with the triangles. It's still just 2 seams, and we're going to do them exactly the same way. So this is what I want to sew first. I'm going to fold this like that. Then I'm going to fold this out of the way like that, just like we did with the triangle. Then you'll flip this over and you'll match your point here and then come all the way out this way. So you'll match your point with your pin, and match your point here, And then you'll want to put your pin in here and stitch along this line. Here are the stitching we just did. Now let's flip this up and check our little points. So we have a nice good 1/4 inch here at the point. When we sew those together, take this pin out, and then now these two sides are what we want to stitch together. So put those together and fold this other out of the way. Line up the top edge, the side edge, and then check out where your mark is here. You'll start here and stitch all the way just up to the mark and then back stitch. And here's the stitching we just did. Now let's open it up and check our other star point over here. We have a nice good 1/4 inch there, and then we'll press this later. Or you could press it now if you wanted to. Press it the same way. Press this open and press this toward the dark fabric. And now do the other one the same way. Put this other square in right here. All right, we're getting there. Next thing, we're going to sew these two together. Flip this over. And we'll start from our point here, and we'll go to our other point over here. But when you get to the middle, you're going to have to use your pin to make these points all meet at the same place. We'll first take the top and look from this side and see where the points come together. Put your pin right where they come together. I'm putting my pin in from the other side because I can't see. Okay, so there, I've come out right where the points meet. Now I'm going to put the pin down here where these points meet. Okay, and hold it up. Match the sides like this. Hold it like this, make sure it's perpendicular, then put the needle in. You'll have to match your point here and here. You might have to ease it in just a little bit, but you're going to sew from just past the point to almost up to the point. Leave the point open. Okay, we've got our stitching starting just below this point, and we made sure we didn't cut our points off here, and then we ended just before this other point. So if we open this up, we can check our points in the center, and they look pretty good. Now all we have left to do is put a square here and a square here, and we do those the exact same way we did the squares. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos.